Welcome to Wild Turkey Science, a podcast made possible by Turkeys for Tomorrow. I'm Dr. Marcus Lashley, Professor of Wildlife Ecology at the University of Florida.
And I'm Dr. Will Gulsby, Professor of Wildlife Ecology and Management at Auburn University. We're both lifelong hunters and devoted scientists who are passionate about hunting, managing, and researching wild turkeys.
In this podcast, we'll explore turkey research, speak to the experts in the field, and address the difficult questions related to wild turkey ecology and management.
Our goal
is to serve as your connection to wild turkey science. I know we talked to you at the NWTF convention for a while about all the cool work that you're doing up in Pennsylvania, and I guess it's partnering with some other agencies even. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind, we'd love to hear what kind of work you have going on and what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, so it's a 4-year study that we're working on in Pennsylvania in partnership with Penn State University, Dwayne Diefenbach and Franny Buterman. But we also have a side project, a gobbler project, where we're looking at gobbler crippling loss, and that's with Dr. Andy Moen from Penn State. But the hen study is with the USGS co-op unit at Penn State, Franny and Dwayne, and in partnership with University of Pennsylvania. So there's all the veterinarians. So we've got the veterinarians, and then we have the spatial and the population biologists, and me caught in the middle, just trying to understand all these great academic folks.
I feel like that quite a bit myself.
Yeah, so the wonderful aspect of this is the Pennsylvania Game Commission has this. We're not only involved with the co-op unit at Penn State, but now we have a cooperative program with UPenn's veterinary medicine school, and that's called the Wildlife Futures Program. And so we're able to use the expertise of the vets from UPenn, and so Eric Gagne and Aman Anis are the lead PIs at University of Pennsylvania, and so our own veterinarian, Dr. Andrew DeSalvo, and then we also have another veterinarian, Scott Larson, who's a kind of the liaison between Penn State and UPenn. So we have and then of course we have the veterinarian, one of the main veterinarians at UPenn, Dr. Kevin Nightinghouse. He's doing all of our most of our necropsies for our birds that are transmitted and died. And so we have just an enormous amount of folks from these two universities working cooperatively with the Game Commission on this project. And now we also have Ohio State University, and Ohio's wildlife agency working on this project. Maryland DNR is cooperating beginning this year as well, and then New Jersey is going to begin. New Jersey Fish and Wildlife is going to begin next year. So it's the largest mid-Atlantic, I guess you'd say, study that we've been able to have for hen turkeys. I guess the last large study we had was in cooperation with New York and Ohio, as I talked about, the gobbler banding study. But this is the largest hen study. We call it a turkey population dynamic study that we've ever had in this part of the country. And so it's really neat because we're going to be able to have all of these different states with different types of turkey populations, and in different habitats. So, for example, New Jersey has much more urban settings, and their population is doing very well, their turkey population, and especially in urban settings. So, it'll be really interesting to see the habitat where that the hens are selecting in those urban settings. Now, just in Pennsylvania
Yeah, I'm
alone,
definitely interested to see
Mhm.
that.
yeah, and in Maryland, for example, they have two study areas. One's on the eastern shore, and one's in the western part of the state, in the mountainous areas. And so you would think that, oh, okay, well, it must be in the mountainous areas where they have the higher populations. No, it's on their eastern shore, which is more urban. Go figure, so it'll be interesting to have those two perspectives. And then in Pennsylvania, we have four different study areas, and we selected them specifically so that we're looking at the whole range of turkey populations within the state. So we have for example, in more western Pennsylvania, it's called Wildlife Management Unit 2D, where it's some of the most diverse habitat, and it has the highest turkey um, harvest densities, and some of our highest hunter densities. And so that's kind of like our best habitat. And then we have the central part of the state, where it's kind of, it's average habitat. It's a lot of woodland, but there's a lot of state land in the forested ridges, and then the valleys are mostly agricultural. And so we have, a good diversity of different habitats in the central part of the state. And then we have the northeastern part of the state, where we've actually never put transmitters on birds, and and we have large expanses of public land in the mountains, and then also a lot of private housing developments that are coming in. So some urban, but not urban. It's, housing developments that were in the woods. And so now they've become, you know, well, a more urban environment in the woods. So, but
Hmm. Yeah.
not as much open
Mhm.
land. And then finally down in the southeastern part of the state, outside of Philadelphia. So it's our more mostly urban and residential areas, but parts of that still have a lot of beautiful agricultural lands. So it's a lot of diversity. And the nice thing about this study is, we're able to have these four different study areas, but the sampling unit is the hen. So even though she might be in the urban habitat, we're pulling it. These are GPS transmitters, so we're going to look at the habitat that she's selecting, that each individual hen is selecting, and see how that particular habitat um, is um, relates to their nesting success and their poult recruitment, and then their disease. The amount of the occurrence of diseases, and so we're really getting. This is the first time we've ever put GPS transmitters on hens to track, their their the actual habitat use, at 1 hour intervals throughout the day, and these transmitters also have accelerometers, so activity. Um, you know, it tracks their activity, so we know not only where they are specifically on the landscape, but we also know what they're doing. Are they sitting? Are they feeding? Are they moving? Are they sleeping? Whatever. Um, so that's it's the first time all four of these states will have this information on turkey. So we're going to we're asking a lot of different questions, but the main emphasis is, uh, how how does landscape affect hen survival, hen productivity, and hen predation rates? And so really kind of focus on exactly what kind of habitats these hens um, are producing their nests, and where exactly are they being killed, and then of course the disease aspect. Um, does co-infection have any inherent change, or does it change their ability to survive or to reproduce? And so I'm really interested in co-infection, because I know a lot of turkeys that we've necropsied during the past 8-10 years oftentimes have different infections simultaneously. They might have avian pox, but they also have lymphoproliferative disease.
Mm.
Speaking of lymphoproliferative disease, does is it? I'd like to see if we have similar results to Maine. Maine's study that they recently concluded that hens that um, are infected with lymphoproliferative disease have about, on average, they lay one less egg per clutch. Well, does that really make a difference population level? I don't know, but um, what does that mean for Pennsylvania's turkeys? And if a hen
Hmm.
is
Definitely
infected with,
doesn't help.
yeah, yeah, and if she's infected with LPDB, is she more prone to be infected with something else? And does that then decrease her survivorship or decrease her production
Right.
throughout her lifespan? And I also want to look at to see if these transmitters, the batteries last 2 years. So I want to find out if a hen um, is successful at nesting her first year, does that make her more prone to be successful the next year, and vice
Hmm.
Hmm.
versa? So this is our second year of nesting, and so I'm really interested to see for the transmitters that we have remaining, if those successful hens are again successful this
Yeah,
year,
that's really,
and vice
really
versa.
interesting. I also, when you're talking about the infection, then I start to think about, well, you're already talking about some reproductive effects potentially, but also, does it make her more prone to die from predation, for instance? So, there are sick hens getting
Right.
eaten, and then we would associate that with predation when actually it's probably the ultimate cause is disease in that case. So, lots of interesting things to think about related to that.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it'll be really informative to see what the trends are across those different landscapes as well. Not only in terms of the areas that they're selecting for, but also their performance in each of those.
Yeah, you could really. I think we said something like Inception on these previous episodes. How it just there's so many layers, and it's all inside of each
Yeah.
other. But also disease could potentially affect habitat use and where they choose to nest. Like there's all sorts of things going on here that are really complex, but also really interesting. And your study sounds pretty exciting because it's so diverse and so large with so many partners in it. That's really awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
What's
we
the
so you were probably going to ask what the sample size is?
well, I would, yeah, I'd love to know that, and then also the timeline of completion because we'd love to have you back on to share those results.
Yeah, thanks. So, this started in 2022, and it's 4 years. So, you know, 2022, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 2025. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Um, and and Ohio is going
People
for
may
3
still be
years,
listening to us by then.
right?
Yeah, are we
Who
going to be
knows?
able to keep it
Um,
going?
but I don't. I'm hoping that Penn State will have some preliminary results next year. Um, but I don't know if they'll be comfortable sharing anything yet.
Hmm.
Hopefully, for the next symposium, we'll have some data that they can
Hmm.
publish. And Maryland is is coming on for 3 years, and New Jersey, they're starting next year, but they might go for 3 years. So theirs could go until 2026. It's yet to be determined
Mhm.
for that state. So and in Pennsylvania, we're putting out 25 transmitters per study area per year. So that's 100 transmitters in Pennsylvania, 50 in Maryland, 50 will be in New Jersey, and I can't remember if Ohio has. They have 2 study areas, but for some reason I'm thinking they're doing 50 birds per study area to make 100. But I apologize. I can't remember if they're doing 25 or 50 per study area. A large sample size. And then what we ended up doing in Pennsylvania uh, for the second round of winter trapping, the transmitters that we recovered early on last year that had good enough battery life to last through the end of brood rearing for 2023, we went ahead and redeployed those transmitters. So we put out about 150 or 160 transmitters this past winter.
Wow.
So we have so yeah, so we're going to have a huge sample size come this spring for nesting hens. We have 4 field crews, 1 field crew in each study area, and oh man, they're absolutely wonderful because they're they're working they're working, you know, many hours just trying to keep up with all of these turkeys right now. And last year we had a lot of hens dying during dispersal. I mean that happens.
Mhm.
They leave the protection of their winter flocks and they disperse to their spring nesting areas and they die. Well, this year they're not dying. And so
Well, that's good news.
they're really, yeah, I know.
It depends on your perspective, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Um, yeah. So ask us, in a few years for results. Unfortunately, I can't provide you with anything
Yeah.
just yet.
Well, we're going to be
No,
sitting
we
on the edge of our
understand.
seat, so we'd love to have you back to talk about it. And like we told you before, we have quite a few listeners from Pennsylvania and the surrounding states, and I know that they will be very interested to hear updates when you get them. It's exciting just to know that the work is going on. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have, well, we have 1 graduate student at Penn State right now working on her PhD, Veronica Winter. And then we'll be hiring another graduate student working on his master's degree coming um, this summer or in August. And then we have a postdoc at UPenn that will be coming on. Uh, so we might have get a different perspective, maybe have, one of those folks come on as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't wanna
Yeah.
take all the limelight. So
Yeah, we've done that with other projects.
yeah,
Some of these multifaceted projects that are really large, kind of share the microphone, so to speak, around. So uh, we definitely would love to talk to some of those other folks as well.
great. So I'm not sure if you would like to go into any more detail. I'm looking at I made some notes here.
Yeah, I mean, we covered a lot of ground today,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think the folks from that part of the country are going to be appreciative of us not talking about the South so much in this episode. So there you have it, folks. We do respond to
Yeah,
listener
yeah,
feedback.
exactly. Well, it's just nice, knowing that there's so much awesome work going on all over the country.
So one thing I guess I do want to mention too, you said, Marcus, that there's so much good work going on around the country, um, and kudos go out to all the universities. We when we decided to get on to begin a turkey study, we reached out to Mike Byrne, the University of Missouri, and at the time, Raina Tile was working for Missouri, the Missouri's Department of Conservation, she's now working for the Pennsylvania Game Commission as our grouse and and woodcock biologist. But so, we decided to go with the same type of transmitter that they're going with, and and then Mike Byrne, yeah, Mike Byrne from University of Missouri. He, we spoke with Mike Chamberlain, and Mike is using the same transmitter, and and now it's just kind of blossoming, and now a lot of states that are getting into turkey research and on hens are using the same transmitter, and we're using the same, not only the same transmitter, but we're using the same techniques for for nesting and for habitat analysis, so that we can compare apples to apples finally. So we can we're if we're using the same data or using the same transmitters, we have the same data, and we're collecting the vegetation information the same. And so we can analyze it all the same. And that was one thing I wanted to also mention in terms of uh, you know, analyzing data the same. So besides this study, which which I don't know how many universities and states are now involved with this, but it's at least 10. Um, we'll have such a pile of data for postdocs to just sort through for 5 years down the line after the study is over. I mean, there's so many other questions that we'll be able to answer. And University of Tennessee is getting into this egg fertility study, and so now everybody, well, a lot of states that are putting transmitters on hens and and finding unhatched eggs, after the eggs hatch, or after the nests, have hatched. Now we're cooperating together with University of Tennessee and Tennessee's Department of their wildlife agency, and providing those eggs. Everybody can provide eggs to that study, and so it's great because we're all being able to cooperate with each other, and get to help the common cause of answering all of these management related questions to turkey, for turkey research and turkey management. But I also wanted to mention, we have a national wild turkey technical committee, with the National Wild Turkey Federation. We met at we meet at the convention. We have teams meetings throughout the year, besides at the convention. And so, for the last 5 years, I guess, we now have a national standardized brood survey. And so there's over 30 states now that collect brood data in the
I
same.
wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, it's the same methodology, and we all conduct surveys during July and August, and collect the data all the same way, and it's analyzed all this. Actually, it's now being analyzed through a cooperative agreement. But yeah, so it's great because brood data has always been collected kind of mishmashed and differently by every state, and and it was analyzed differently. And so now we're actually able to compare apples to apples again. Um, so that's just one
That's going to
other.
be powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So all of this cooperation is just really bringing turkey management into the 21st century. So I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish, and man, we're just really moving full steam ahead. It's really great.
Yeah, that's one thing that we've been saying, pretty regularly here lately, is that over the next several years, I think we're really going to go through a exponential growth phase in terms of wild turkey knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mary Jo, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. We always like to let the guest have minute if you have any take-home messages or anything that you want to tell folks.
Well, thank you. I guess I want to thank you both, Marcus and Will, for taking the time and effort to do a podcast like this. When I became the turkey biologist in 1999, I mean the only way for me to really get some information besides reading the wild turkey Bible, as we call it, was to just go to meetings with with the technical committee and go to the National Wild Turkey Federation convention, and just talk and kind of just listen and help, just really try to acquire as much information as I could at these um, you know at these one-on-one conventions and in-person meetings, but the ability to have these podcasts is just wonderful. I mean, I don't know how you can do it. I give you guys a great applause, because I'm just not very versed in social media, so I'm glad that somebody else is.
It's not us.
So I guess
Here's a secret.
It's
I'm
not us
either.
as sharp as keeping this whole thing together. We just talk into a microphone.
Yeah. Well, kudos to Charlotte too.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for that, though. Yeah, and we appreciate your time, Mary Jo.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no problem. And now it's just about turkey season in Pennsylvania, so I'm gonna be leaving my office here momentarily and going to look for some turkey scratchings in the woods, so I know where to.
Oh, nice.
Just start my.
Well,
turkey
good for
season.
you. We certainly don't want to get in the way of that. So, where can people contact you? At an email address, or is there a best way to contact you we could provide in the show notes?
We do have a general general comments email address for the Game Commission.
Okay.
And then I do have my own Game Commission email address, but I'll have to. I don't know how many that would generate. But my door is always open for folks, and I'll tell you what, we have a great marketing and I&E department within our agency, and so whenever anybody emails or even calls the agency, we just call the direct line, and if you call the direct line, they patch right into my office. Or same with the emails. If it's anything that's related to turkey, then it gets directed right to me.
Okay. Well, we can direct people to that then.
Sounds great. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks everybody out there for listening. We really appreciate it. You've all been helping us quite a bit by sharing the podcast and rating it and all those things. We really appreciate it. Also, we are trying to address questions that you all are sending us. So keep doing that. We really appreciate all the feedback and the support. And until we see you next time, thanks for listening.
Wild Turkey Science is part of the Natural Resources University podcast network and is made possible by Turkeys for Tomorrow, a grassroots organization dedicated to the wild turkey. To learn more about TFT, check out turkeysfortomorrow.org.